Hopefully that really good. Can you see?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. ما بعد. فالسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome everyone to our second lesson on the four principles, قواعد الأربعة. Last week, we left off having completed the introduction. And we mentioned that this book is broken up into different sections. The author, he first started off with an intro to the book, describing for us some characteristics or some traits that lead a person to living a life of happiness. Now, the author, he's going to go into the second portion of the book, which is describing for us or defining for us what is al-Hanifiyya, what is the religion of Ibrahim alayhi salam, what is it to be a muwahhid, what is tawheed. All right, so this is what we're going to look at in this section, inshallah. The author, Sheikh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, rahimahullah ta'ala, he says here, اعلم أرشدك الله لطاعته أن الحنيفية ملة إبراهيم أن تعبد الله وحده مخلصا له الدين كما قال تعالى وما خلقت الجن والإنس إلا ليعبدون. فإذا عرفت أن الله خلقك لعبادته فاعلم أن العبادة لا تسمى عبادة إلا مع التوحيد، كما أن الصلاة لا تسمى صلاة إلا مع الطهارة، فإذا دخل الشرك في العبادة فسدت كالحدث إذا دخل في الطهارة. As for the English translation, he says, "No, may Allah guide you to His obedience. The Hanifiyya is the religion of Ibrahim alayhi salam, that you worship Allah alone, making the religion sincerely for Him. As He, the Most High, said, I did not create jinn nor mankind except to worship me. And when you have acknowledged that Allah created you for His worship, know that worship is not regarded as being worship unless it is accompanied by tawheed. Just as the salah is not called salah unless it is accompanied by tahara, purification. Similarly, if shirk enters worship, it invalidates it, just like impurity invalidates tahara when it enters it." Many people, they might not realize exactly what the sheikh is doing here or attempting to get across. This is a type of comparison that he's making, and he's doing it for a reason. The sheikh, he's comparing what to what here. He's comparing worship, and that it must be accompanied by tawheed, and it can be spoiled by shirk, just like the prayer has to come with something, and the prayer must come with what? Tahara. And the tahara or the prayer can be spoiled by impurity. A well-known type of comparison amongst the scholars. Why? Those who are in opposition to tawheed, those people of innovation, they like to make certain arguments. For example, they like to say shirk, it cannot occur in this ummah. This ummah is protected from ever committing shirk. So we say to them, which is more greater? Everyone should think about this. And what is more important? Is the shahada, the first pillar, the most important thing, or is the prayer? Obviously, it's the first. The shahada, it's the most important thing because nothing is accepted except with the shahada coming. طيب. The prayer, does it have things which invalidate it, which cancel it out, which make it batil, null? Yes, it does. So we say, how come the prayer has things which cancel it out, but the greater and more important concept, which is the shahada, doesn't have anything that cancels it out? Of course it does. So this is the point that he's trying to get across here. He's trying to show the reader or the one learning or the one that this da'wah is reaching that just like there are things which mess up your prayer, there are things which mess up and cancel out your tawheed, and that is shirk. All right. So this is the point that he's trying to get across here. Notice also he made a dua for the person here. What is it that he's making dua for? For this person to be guided to something. And what is it that he's asking Allah to guide you to? He's asking Allah to guide you to Al-Hanifiyya. The religion of Ibrahim alayhi salam, أن الحنيفية ملة إبراهيم, he says. This word Hanaf, right, which Hanifiya comes from Hanaf. Hanaf means to divert from something, to turn away from something. All right. In other words, who was Ibrahim alayhi salam? He was someone who turned away, diverted away completely from shirk. All right. So he's someone who diverted or leaned away or turned away completely from shirk while remaining firm on tawheed. So Allah described Ibrahim alayhi salam as Hanif because of this, due to him turning away from shirk fully and completely. Inna Ibrahim kana ummatan qanitan lillahi hanifan walam yakun min al-mushrikeen. Allah says in Surah Al-Nahl, indeed Ibrahim was a whole community by himself. He was a ummah, obedient to Allah, perfectly upright, and he was not from the mushrikeen, the polytheists. Then he moves on here to give a definition of what is Hanifiyya. What is this religion? And he says, أن تعبد الله وحده مخلصا له الدين, that you worship Allah alone, making the religion sincerely for him. And that is found in the Quran in Surah Al-Bayyinah, where Allah says, وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ هُنَفَاءَ. Even though they were only commanded to worship Allah alone with sincere devotion to him. All right. So this is where he took the definition from, that it is to worship Allah alone with ikhlas, from Surah Al-Bayyinah. Hanifiyya, this way of life, this religion, it is built upon certain principles. Every Muslim must be familiar with this. And it is made up of 3 principles. What are they? First and foremost, ibadatullahi wahdah, is that you worship Allah alone. This is the first pillar or first principle of the way of Ibrahim alayhi salam. The second is muwalat awliyaillah, as we say, that you love and that you have allegiance towards those who are believers. The believers are your brothers. The believers are the ones that deserve your mutual love and respect and aid. Okay, so you have a connection, a love and allegiance towards them. This is number 2. And if you have that second one, that means you also have to have this third one, which is al-bara'atu min a'da'illah, that you must distance yourself. You must cut yourself off. You must have a certain level of dislike for the enemies of Allah. All right? You cannot love the one that is the enemy of Allah. So when these 3 things are found in a person, they are upon the religion of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Ibrahim. All right. This is the example that we find in Ibrahim alayhi salam. Here, the author, he also gives us a verse of the Quran. He says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. And I did not create the jinn kind, nor mankind, except to worship me. This was the reasoning behind the creation. All right, there's the reasoning behind the creation. It is worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And worship is of 2 types. Ibadah is of 2. And one, a person has no say in it. It is by force. All right, so the first one is by choice, and the second one is by force. By default, everyone is considered a worshiper of Allah, in a sense. Like, what are these 2 forms of worship or types of worship? The first one is the shar'i, the legislative worship, ubudiyyat al-shar'iyyah. This is the one where Allah tells us how to worship him. So a person will either do it or they won't do it. This is the one where Allah leaves it up to the person by choice. And based on that, either they go to the hellfire or to paradise. And the second one is what we call ubudiyyat al-kawniyah, a universal type of ibadah. This is one where no one has a say in it. For example, Allah tells a soul, come alive. The soul comes alive. Allah tells a person, die. It's your time to go. They die. Did they have a choice in that? No. Allah tells the sun to come up, and He tells it to go down. None of this is by choice. It is kawniyya. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set the laws in place. All right. So by default, every human being and every creation at a certain level is a worshipper of Allah. Okay. But the one that Allah bases the hellfire and the paradise off of is the first type, where there's a choice in it. طيب, what are the jinn, which he mentions here? As we all know, the jinn are another created being, which are hidden from us, and they have special qualities and characteristics which Allah created them with. The jinn are created from smokeless fire, and they too, like us, are mukallaf. They're responsible, meaning they're held responsible for their actions. So the jinn who is obedient to Allah is rewarded, just like the jinn who is disobedient or is a disbeliever is punished by Allah. All right. What is the actual definition of ibadah, though? All right. When we say ibadah, what is the definition of it? The best definition and the most widely accepted is the definition of Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah. Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, he says ibadah is a comprehensive term. Ibadah is a comprehensive term for everything Allah loves, from words and actions, both internal and external. I'll repeat that one more time. Ibadah is a comprehensive term for everything Allah loves, from words and actions, both internal and external. This is the actual definition of what ibadah it means. And the ulama, the scholars, they came to a conclusion that ibadah also can be built upon 3 pillars. Whenever a person's heart is missing one of these 3 things, then he's not engaged in ibadah. Whenever a person is missing one of these 3 things, then he's not necessarily engaged in ibadah. What are these 3 things? Number 1, al-khawf, fear. Number 2, al-mahabba, love. And number 3, al-raja, hope. So worship, it revolves around these 3 things. It's not possible for a person to worship Allah without one of them. Meaning, it's not possible, for example, for a person to fear Allah and hope in Allah, but they don't love Allah. La, you must have all 3. Or if someone has the love of Allah and fear of Allah, but has no hope, that also doesn't work. All right. So these 3 all have to be found in the person. Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali, one of the great scholars, when he was speaking about these 3 pillars, he described them as a bird. Just so you can have this picture in your mind. Picture a bird. The head of the bird is love, al-mahabba. It's giving the bird its direction and its control. And then the 2 wings are fear and hope, al-khawf and al-raja. And the wings give it balance. You cannot have too much weight on either side. They must be around the same in order to maintain balance. Too much fear will lead you down the wrong path, and too much hope will also lead you down the wrong path. All right. So you, as a believer, you pray, you fast, you make hajj, all of these things you do for what? You do it out of love of Allah, and out of fear of His punishment, and out of hope for His reward and mercy. All right, so this is how all 3 of these things, they fit together when it comes to ibadah. But we can also say, from another perspective or another direction, that in order for ibadah to be accepted, it must meet 2 conditions. It must meet 2 conditions. The first condition being al-ikhlas, sincerity. And you all just took that first hadith with Ustadh Kia in the 40 hadith of Imam al-Nawawi. The first condition for a worship, for ibadah to be accepted from any of us, is that we must have ikhlas. We must have sincerity towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second condition is that this action that we're doing, it must be in line with the guidance of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It must be in line with the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the way that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us. And this is what we call al-mutaba'ah. Al-mutaba'ah. Okay, that you're following or implementing it the correct way. Cannot make up ibadah on your own. All right, there's a certain way that it needs to be done, and that is why Allah sent a Rasul to teach us. When these two are found, then the ibadah is good. However, everyone is not the same. People are different. So you will find people implementing these two conditions in various ways. Okay? People, in respect to these two conditions, they will vary. You will find people who have both conditions met when it comes to their worship. These people are the few. Okay, these people are the few. Those who are sincere and those who are doing it correctly. We cannot say this is everyone. All right? These are the ones that Allah has chosen. There is another group, however, and they are those who are sincere. They meet the ikhlas. But unfortunately, they do not have the mutaba'ah. They are not doing the ibadah the way that the Prophet ﷺ taught us. Okay? So the first category of people are people who meet both conditions, whereas the second category are those who meet the first, which is sincerity, ikhlas, but they don't meet al-mutaba'ah, doing it the way that the Prophet ﷺ taught us. There's a third group of people, and they are the complete opposite. There are those who do the action the correct way, the way that the Prophet ﷺ taught us, the way that it is according to the Sunnah, but they don't have ikhlas. So this person, he prays, and he prays correctly, but he doesn't have sincerity. So there's no reward there. In fact, this person is sinful. They've just opened themselves up to the punishment of Allah. All right? And in fact, there is also a fourth group, we can say. And this is someone who has no ikhlas, nor any mutaba'ah. This person doesn't have any of the conditions, the fourth group. All right? They don't have any sincerity, and they don't have the mutaba'ah, following the way that the Prophet ﷺ, he taught us. In fact, their worship is directed to other than Allah. This is where a person falls into shirk. All right? This is where a person falls into disbelief. So what does he say here? He says, when you have acknowledged that Allah created for you his worship, know that worship is not regarded as being worship unless it is accompanied by tawheed. Just as salah is not called salah unless it is accompanied by purification. Okay, so he's clarifying for us here a very important principle, and that is that shirk ruins what it enters. Shirk will either destroy all of a person's actions, or it will destroy just a particular action. Okay? So if a person, for example, is fasting every day, praying every night, but he engages in major shirk, khalas, all of his actions are destroyed. Okay, this person has now become a mushrik, disbeliever. Even if he spends the rest of his life worshipping Allah, so long as he's involved in that shirk. All right? So in that case, all of a person's actions are destroyed. What if a person falls into minor shirk? Minor shirk. For example, riya, right? They show off. Well, then we say only that particular action that he performs riya in is destroyed, but not all of his actions, not all of his Islam. So I hope everyone understands this difference. When it comes to major shirk, all of the person's Islam is nullified. Whereas when it comes to minor shirk, then that particular action is nullified. All right. So, مثلا, a person, he gives a charity of $100. While he's giving that $100, he's showing off. He wants people to see him, people to watch him. All right. He wants to feel good about himself. He's not doing it for Allah's sake. Then this individual act is rejected. Not all of his Islam. But here, what is the author speaking about? Which shirk is it? Asghar or akbar? Is it the minor one or is it the major one? He's talking about the major one. All right. So ibadah must be free from major shirk in order for it to be called ibadah. In order for it to be called ibadah. All right. طيب, let us, inshallah, just take a few more minutes here before we end. In the next page, what does he say? He says, فإذا عرفت أن الشرك إذا خالط العبادة أفسدها وأحبط العمل وصار صاحبه من الخالدين في النار عرفت أن أهم ما عليك معرفة ذلك لعل الله أن يخلصك من هذه الشبكة وهي الشرك بالله الذي قال الله تعالى فيه إن الله لا يغفر أن يشرك به ويغفر ما دون ذلك لمن يشاء وذلك بمعرفة 4 قواعد ذكرها الله تعالى في كتابه. When you have acknowledged that shirk entering into worship invalidates it, negates all actions, and a person remains in the fire for eternity, you will therefore realize the most important matter upon you is to have knowledge regarding this, so that Allah may save you from the abyss of committing shirk with Him. Allah the Most High said regarding this, Indeed, Allah does not forgive that partners should be set up with Him, but He forgives everything else apart from that to whom He wills. This knowledge comprises of 4 principles which Allah the Most High has mentioned in His book. All right. So shirk, what does shirk mean? Shirk comes from the word linguistically asharaka, which is an agreement or a partnership between 2 or more people. All right, never just one person. However, the Sharia definition, the legal definition of shirk is to divert something from the characteristics of Allah to other than Allah. Okay, such as saying Allah is not ar-Raziq, Allah is not the one who provides, it's so and so, X, Y, and Z. So you've diverted something from the special characteristics or traits of Allah to other than Allah. That's considered shirk. Or it is to make equal a creation with Allah. Or it is to divert worship, which should be directed towards Allah, to other than Allah. So instead of praying towards Allah, you pray towards something else. All of this is shirk. All right? And shirk, as we have already mentioned, is 2 types, major and minor. And shirk can occur in many ways. And it's important for us to understand this, especially in our time today, when shirk takes on various different forms which may have not been known previously. Shirk, it can occur in Allah's rububiyyah, in His lordship. When we say rububiyyah, what we mean is Allah is the creator, Allah is the sustainer, Allah is the one that gives life and death, Allah is the one that sends down the rain, etc. How does shirk occur in Allah's rububiyyah? When one believes there's another one out there, which is also taking part in creation and controlling the universe. This is shirk. All right. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Yunus, قُلْ مَنْ يَرْزُقُكُم مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ أَمَنْ يَمْلِكُ السَّمْعَ وَالْأَبْصَارَ وَمَنْ يُخْرِجُ الْحَيَّ مِنَ الْمَيِّتِ وَيُخْرِجُ الْمَيِّتَ مِنَ الْحَيِّ وَمَنْ يُدَبِّرُ الْأَمْرَ فَسَيَقُولُونَ اللَّهُ فَقُلْ أَفَلَا تَتَّقُونَ. Ask them, O Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who provides for you from the heavens and the earth? Who owns your hearing and your sight? Who brings the living from the dead and the dead from the living? Who controls every affair? They will surely say, Allah. Say, will you not then fear Him? So these are actions of Allah. Allah does these actions. But once a person believes or claims someone else other than Allah does these actions, then they have fallen into shirk in Allah's rububiyyah. A person can also fall into shirk in Allah's uluhiyyah. in the worship of Allah, which is our actions. And how does a person fall into that? By giving worship, ibadah, which is the right of Allah, to others. And this is why Allah sent the prophets and the messengers and sent down the books to clarify this shirk. Because most people, they believe Allah is the one that creates life and gives death and provides. Most people, they believe in Allah's rububiyyah. But in Allah's uluhiyyah, this is where majority of the people went wrong. They began to worship other than Allah. Okay, Allah says, وَأَنَّ الْمَسَاجِدَ لِلَّهِ فَلَا تَدْعُوا مَعَ اللَّهِ أَحَدًا. The masajid belong to Allah, so do not invoke anyone along with Him. Okay, and He says in other ayat, وَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا. Worship Allah and associate nothing with Him. All right, so how does shirk in Allah's uluhiyyah occur? By worshiping other than Allah. And of course, shirk can also occur in Allah's asma wa sifat, in His names and His attributes. How? When a person equates the creation with the Creator in terms of His names and His attributes. Okay? The point of the Shaykh in these lines here that we're reading is what? To tell us that shirk akbar is what takes a person out of Islam and destroys their tawheed. And no matter what good they're doing, so long as they're involved in shirk, then it destroys all their actions and they have left Islam. And when a person falls into shirk, there are some severe consequences that are built on that, both in this life and in the next. Okay, so we need to be very careful of all of this. All right. نكتفي بهذا القدر. Inshallah, we'll stop here for tonight. And then we will pick up next week with the very first pull and move forward from there. جزاكم الله خيرا.